Rise and Shine Your Life here on Tobago Channel 5. Now, just before we get into our next interview, with regards to the previous interview and the Women's Convention that's coming up on Thursday, it will be held at the Scarborough Evangelical Church, Otley Street. All right? Scarborough Evangelical Church, Otley Street, Scarborough, Tobago. On our program this morning, Mr. Michael A.T. Stewart, Communications Consultant for NIB. So we're here to get an update from Mr. Stewart. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning and morning, Carlson.
Now, tell us where we're at, Mr. Stewart. One of the last times we had you on our program, we were talking about the closure of the mall. In fact, most of the tenants were out by that time. Right. We saw the blocking around of the compound.
Yes.
Tell us where we're at.
So, since that time, the 30th of April deadline was met, that we had all the tenants cooperating in the move by the deadline, and which we appreciate very much.
By force or by ease?
Well, I'm sure that some would have done it reluctantly because, you know, it is a very sentimental moment for some because they have been there for a number of years, and economical reasons also. But we appreciate the fact that they understood, at least to the point of where they would have cooperated with us. I'm sure that some would have left disenchanted, and some of them would have left willingly, knowing that this gives way for a brighter Scarborough, an improved mall, and increased economic activity in Scarborough.
Okay, but how have you assisted, or have you assisted any at all in their relocation?
Yes, well, I went around along with other members of the NIB executive, and we met with each tenant, finding out what assistance that they would require. And we found out that there were 3 areas that they required assistance. Number 1, transportation, and then we provided that at the cost to NIB, no cost to the tenant. We also provided them loaders because they had so many trips to make from the store to the vehicle. We provided loaders and so on. And they also wanted, in some cases where they had bulk items, storage, because they did not have a place to store them. And that we also provided at the cost to NIB, and we went ahead now a step further by insuring those items to ensure that they would have some measure of security and peace of mind. So all the areas that they asked for assistance, we made sure that we provided that.
And these were the 3 main concerns for them?
Yes. Well, one of the other concerns would have been an extended period of time, which we could not have acceded to because, as you know, it was a safety issue, and the board was very concerned concerning the safety of the tenants and also anybody that would have been traversing the area.
Okay, so where are we at present in terms of the building itself? As far as I know, the structure is still there. Are we going to, should we expect demolishing of the building? How is it going to work? The
gutting is taking place right now. So
and by gutting you mean?
The components of the building will be taken out and the utilities will be decommissioned. This is now what we call phase 2. And so doors will be removed, partitions removed, etc., and that is taking place. We are 95% completed on that. So we are almost there. In fact, this week we should complete that now. Between today and tomorrow, we should have that completed as far as the gutting and the decommissioning is concerned of the utilities.
Phase 1 having been the evacuation of tenants?
Yes.
Okay, phase 2. Tell us, what is phase 3?
Well, included in phase 2, we would now auction the items from the mall to the public. That auction is going to take place next week. So anyone who might be interested in some of the items, they may have a business, they may have a home, and they want to use some of the items because they are quite good items still, then that viewing can take place on Friday the 7th of June. That is Friday the 7th of June from 9 o'clock at the car park of the NIB Mall.
Viewing the items?
To view the items. And then the actual auction itself takes place on Saturday the 8th.
What are we looking at here for this auction? Give us a rough idea of what we can expect.
Well, all the details will be in the printed press. We would have a paid advertisement there, but we're talking about like the doors, as we said, the frames, glass, you have trunkings, you have electrical cables that would be still good and so on. So a number of things that people could use for whatever business. In fact, some people have already started calling and asking for some of the doors that might fit into some of their new location, or people who were not even members of the mall who would want to put it on buildings that they have.
Okay.
Okay. So the place is all cordoned off and out of reach of the public.
Yes.
Okay. When would demolition has to take place before construction is started?
Yes.
Okay. When is this demolition guided to begin, and how you all intend to do it?
The demolition will start on the 13th of June. That's why we want to make sure that the auction takes place, and that is all. So the 13th of June, that would be the next phase that we'll go into, and that should take about 10 weeks. So with that would bring us to about the end of August. So if you notice, we're moving with some tight timelines.
Yeah.
And the reason is because we really want to replace the mall as quickly as possible to ease whatever economic pressure would have been in Scarborough. And so the entire team have been putting everything into it to make sure that we meet all of these timelines as much as possible.
Any idea what is the baseline for the auction? What figures are we looking at?
Well, that
and the bidding starts at and the bidding starts at.
I can't say. The auctioneer will be in Tobago to tag prior to that, to tag them, and he would have his protocols that he will go through. But I'm sure that they would be quite affordable once the auction gets going. It really depends upon person's ability to auction, the bid at that time.
And if you're familiar with the Monopoly game, then you come prepared.
Right, and so the terms we'll print the terms so that people understand, those who may not be familiar, as to what would take place on that day.
Right. So after demolition, we come to construction of the mall.
Right.
Okay. How are Tobagonian contractors factored into this reconstruction, or are they factored in any at all?
Well, there's a request for proposal. That is the normal procedure of how you go about doing that, and those have already been put together. And what people will do is they would now respond to that request. And there is the process that will take place, the due process, and then the contractor will be selected out of that.
So there is an opportunity for Tobagonian contractors to get in on.
That's right. And they should really be be engaged in exactly when that is taking place and how all of those documents are coming out. The documents have already been drafted and so on, and ready to come out very soon.
So in the short term, labor, the labor force would be mixed, Trinidadians, Tobagonians, whoever gets the contract, he determines who is employed, or do you suggest a quota from Tobago?
Well, I can't speak to that, but I'm looking at the precedent that would have been set. NIB, when we had the moving, had as part of the arrangement that they wanted Tobago truckers to be moving and Tobago people to be engaged. And if I know how they would operate, they would want to ensure that Tobago persons would be engaged as much as possible in the process.
Okay, let's talk about the demolition procedure here. I'm thinking building coming down. I'm thinking dust. Would this demolition pose a health risk to persons in neighboring, well, on the outskirts of Scarborough?
Well, we'll do all
on the outskirts of the NIB Mall, that is.
We'll do all to mitigate against that. I'm sure that we would not be able to trap all the dust that may fly, but certainly, and that's one of the reasons why we have the place hoarded at the moment, to ensure that you have a minimum disruption or interference that would take place, or nuisance that would take place during the time that the mall is decommissioning. As to what process that they're going to use, I can't say. That would be now the remit of the contractor that would get the contract to do that.
Okay, but what would be safe for the location of the NIB Mall?
You're asking an engineering question.
I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna leave it there. But we're gonna take a quick break this morning. We're still chatting with Mr. Michael A.T. Stewart. We're focusing on the NIB Mall. We've gone from evacuation and now to demolition. Okay, and very soon we'll be looking at reconstruction. So stay tuned and join us just after this. Viewers, welcome back to Rise and Shine Live here on Tobago Channel 5. We're still chatting this morning with Mr. Michael A.T. Stewart, communications consultant for NIB. And our focus this morning is on the demolition process or phase. This would be phase 3, phase 2. Phase 2 demolition would be phase 2 of the NIB mall.
Right. So, and that, as we said, is taking place now. And what I want people to keep in mind is the auction, because that is going to be important. We really need to get persons to purchase those items as much as possible, because we really think that they could be used by a number of persons, and NIB felt that it should be made available to Tobagonians. So I want to repeat that it is Friday for the viewing. So
right, Friday 7th.
Friday the 7th. And you can view it at the car park of the mall. There are tents there, and you'll come and you view it there. And on the 8th, that's when the auction will take place.
Now, have these doors and glasses and windows been with the NIB mall from inception?
Yes, yes.
How could we're talking about over 30 years?
Yes, about 30 years.
How strong?
But not everything there would be for 30 years. But if you're talking about the glass and the doors, most likely the glass and the doors will be there for 30 years.
And we're still talking here good structure, good...
Yes, because glass does not really deteriorate necessarily.
No expiry date there?
No, no. And the aluminum frames and so on, even the ducting for the, there's an aluminum ducting for the air condition and so on that would run in central air conditioning. All of those would have a certain amount of good life that persons could have from them.
Okay. From the demolition process, we would have a lot of rubble, concrete, and so. Where would this be rested, be dumped, or would it be sold, or how would you get rid of it?
Well, the part of you have part of the thing which would be scrap iron, and there are people who invest in scrap iron that could utilize.
There's a good market for scrap iron.
Right. Yes, and so those persons could come and access those. There are some things that you just cannot salvage and would have to be dumped. Those we suspect would have to. I don't know what would be the decision with it, but we do know that there is a public dump that we have that could be used.
Landfill.
There are some people who are using landfill. I know that there are some sea coast that we have right here in Tobago that are beginning to wash, and could do well with some of the fill to be able to take the stress off of the land in those areas. So there are a number of options.
Okay.
I could see that. I can see that mall, Mr. Stewart. The remains from, or the rubble from that mall. Lambo from the beach house going down on that stretch down there.
Okay.
I can see that.
You can see it fitting there.
But somebody has already started there. So the land has been somewhat extended. So they've already started. So it would be nice to see it continue on.
Yes, yes. Yeah? Because even down at there's an entertainment place down at that Lambo place that had been backfilled quite nicely.
Yes.
I think it was done by the THA. And it looks quite good. And if we could do that along the entire
coming eastward, that type of construction coming eastward would be fine.
Yes.
Maybe at the back of Scarborough Sec.
What beauty. Well, we just suggested some places here.
But I don't know, I went to Scarborough Secondary, so I know all the years that has been washing. You're probably too young to know when Crusoe Hotel was at the back.
Yes, of course.
I passed, there was a nice little truck at the back. Yes. So I remembered somewhat.
Yes, but you don't know when the hotel was in operation.
No, she doesn't.
Oh. No.
Giving away your age.
But certainly it can be used there as well.
Yes.
All right.
What we want to encourage the public is that if they have ideas, even with the building itself, the new building, because you want to bring something that is modern, and we would like to hear from the public, what are some of the facilities that they would like to see in this new mall?
So that could suggest then that the plans have not been drawn just yet?
No. We have an idea because of the footprint So therefore, we know what we cannot go past. But some of the details, we would really want to encourage the public to either call in, write in. We could still use the hotline 635-1801 to call in, or they can email me at michaelatstewarttlc at gmail.com, michaelatstewarttlc@gmail.com, just to post their ideas as to what might be some of those facilities that they would think that should go inside of it.
Okay. As it pertains to the new mall, the plans for the new mall, one thing that has always concerned me was the fact that we had one building on the left, one on the right, that was connected by somewhat of a walkway.
Yes.
Can we look at having everything enclosed so that you can get from point A to point B without having to run through the rain?
So then, therefore, that's your first suggestion.
First suggestion.
All right.
First suggestion, so that persons don't have to be exposed to the elements.
Yes, definitely. I do know that you would not have the going up to one section, come down back to go across to another section. You're not going to have that in the new mall, because as you know, you could not traverse across. You had to go up and down.
Yes.
So now you will have access to all the levels, and you will also have access that the disabled, the physically challenged, will be able to shop comfortably there. So we have the broad ideas of what we'll have, but the details we're asking people to call in on.
Will we be also looking at an increase in the rental of the units at the mall?
Well, I have no information that there will be an increase, but you know, I would think that if...
But you have no information that suggests it's going to remain the same either.
Exactly. But I would think, if I am to hazard a guess, that obviously, because the mall rental has been at its 30-year-old when it was instituted. So it is really not going to be prudent in my books to build a new mall after 30 years and still hold the same rent as it used to be. But I'm sure that it would not be out of reach of the average person to be able to pay the rent.
Okay, what new facility are you proposing, or how many stores do you expect to extend the stores?
Well, certainly we are hoping that the capacity will be greater, so that more persons could be tenants on the mall, and possible whether it's a 2 or 3 level mall, that we'll be able to have that, to have as many persons as possible right in Scarborough plying their trade.
But you know, that mall was, well, if I can say here, use the term, the old mall, didn't have an eatery and this place is only a private place. But you know, the modern thing is that you have this large area for eatery and for children and so forth.
I'll record that as the second suggestion.
You have not...
and it is a good idea, so that you can come, bring your family, you sit down, while some shop, some eat, and so on. I think somebody suggested that we have a small entertainment place that people could come and just have it like a family type atmosphere at the mall.
Yeah.
Okay, something that I think Tobago is sorely missing.
Yes, yes.
So we've given some serious suggestions there, Eddie. Would persons be paid for their suggestions?
No.
Okay,
I don't think I need to tell you. Well, I wonder, but because it's part of our citizen responsibility to contribute to what we are having. But before I leave, I want to say that the construction should begin in September, because as you know, the demolition will finish by August. So quick on the heels is September, and that should take us about 18 months into the completion.
How, I'm hoping here, Mr. Stewart, that we're not looking at another library, another Tobago library experience, or we're not looking at another Tobago cultural complex situation where we're looking at 18 months and have that period extended to 2 years and 3 years.
Okay.
What guarantees would the public have that we're talking 18 months?
I have no information from God as to what is going to happen in the future, but this I could tell you. If you look at the history of how we have operated so far with the mall, that we gave a date of 30th of April, and we have given a date that we're going to start, even though people felt that we would not have been starting to do anything on the mall at all for months. We started almost immediately with the gutting and the decommissioning. That is 95% completed, and we have already set a date to auction off so that we could start the demolition, and that is already around the corner. So when you look at the track record, it shows that we are aggressively pursuing the promises that we've made.
Mr. Stewart, will NIPDEC be inviting bids? I know NIPDEC does some construction in their own in their own day-to-day, you know, chores. I know they do some construction. So would they be building the mall, or would they be inviting bids from other concerns to do the mall?
Well, that's where the request for proposals come in, where you're inviting persons to come in and be part to do the reconstruction.
But you will not be bidding, you in terms of NIPDEC, because you wouldn't know exactly what you want, and you may be the best bidder.
Well, I can't say. I really can't say. I would really love to have answered that, but I really cannot.
Okay.
And is NIB equipped and ready for all of this? The National Insurance Board?
In what sense?
This is a lot to undertake.
Yes, it
and
is.
Even for Tobago.
It is. And we are up to the task, because we really believe Tobago deserve it after having an unsafe building for so long, and so we feel that Tobago ought to have something that we could now move for the next 40, 50 years in a safe, sound environment.
Okay. And we indicated earlier on that with regards to demolition, you're not too certain as to how it's going to be done, but it should not pose a health risk to neighboring.
I am sure that we at the NIB will do all within our powers to ensure that it is not a safety hazard to anybody in or around the area. No, not to the workers, the contractors, nor to any of the tenants that might be occupying other agencies or at least space around the mall.
All right.
What about the normal people who come into town?
Neither. They would be safe because we have beefed up security to ensure, because there are some people still not aware and would be looking to use the other shortcut, and we have ensured that the security would have advised them adequately and make sure that those who are trying to use the other shortcut, they do not use it for their own safety.
Unfortunately, we also saw the closure of the car park.
Yes, yes.
At the back of the mall.
Yes.
Which has reduced parking spaces.
Yes.
In Scarborough.
Unfortunately, we had to hold that off, because while we have nails and things on the ground, people were turning suddenly, not knowing that construction was taking place and activity taking place there, and they're coming suddenly off the road, which would have been danger to not only the workers but even to the very persons in those vehicles as they came in.
But as far as you know, Mr. Stewart, will the mall be extended to the car park? Will any section of the mall be extended to the car park area? Because there is space on the eastern side, there's also some space on the northern side.
Right. And as to whether we'll utilize the car park for building and not have a car park?
No, well, car parks now in malls are underground. You go below and park and then come upstairs. So we expect a modern building, we expect a modern car park.
Maybe car parks and the car park could be on top. You never know.
When I return for the update, I'll tell you where we are with that part of the construction.
We do expect you to build a modern building and then we go and park across the road and then come across. Of course,
we would ensure that there is parking for the persons who would be using the mall.
That's the third idea.
Yeah, yes.
And the playground at the top of the mall instead, you know, okay, look, they're not paying for this. But thank you so much, Mr. Stewart, for being on our program. Just before we go, any closing comments?
Well, again, the auction to take place on the 8th, but we want people to come and view it on the 7th, and that's a Friday, and it's at the car park at the mall. And that viewing is just so that you could see, so that you come back with it in mind. You saw the condition, you saw what you may need, and then that's 9 o'clock on both days. And on the 8th, that's when the auction will take place. There's an auctioneer that will be coming up to do that, a professionally trained auctioneer.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Michael A.T. Stewart, Communication Consultant for the NIB. Well, Tobago, we are going to take a break. It's 7:30. However, we do not have any morning news this morning, and we do apologize for that. But when we come back from that break, we are going to be opening up our phone lines once again. Remember, the numbers to call are 635-1005 or 635-1412. Stay tuned and join us just after this.